Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
You gotta light them up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put them in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
It's good to be back behind the microphone at the desk. You see, I don't have any notes or anything here. Got a water bottle, but I don't have any notes or anything here because what I want to talk about, I don't need notes because it's part of who I am. It's just ingrained in me. It's in my heart. And it's been a while since I've been here talking to you from this microphone because it's been a couple of busy weeks. I had the opportunity after 5 years, motorcycle accident that I'm sure many of you remember on Memorial Day weekend of 2025 on Highway Interstate 35, north of Waco, Texas, funny enough, in the city of West Texas. Mile marker 356 was when I was struck on my motorcycle going 75 miles per hour. I really didn't think that I would ever get back on a motorcycle. Just didn't. But then something last year, November, just kind of struck me. And I think it was the Lord saying, it's okay. And so I decided to go and got an Indian motorcycle. And you always have in the back of your mind, is this really the right time? Did I really do the right thing? I mean, I went to my wife and my daughters because it was a traumatic experience for them. And they said, we understand. That's part of who you are. You've been riding since 1985. But in January of this year, my dear friends from Rolling Thunder, Walt Sides, one of the original founders, and Rob Wilkins, who is now the president of Rolling Thunder, they texted me and asked, would you come to Washington, D.C. on Memorial Day weekend and be a part of Rolling Thunder again? Because it had been 11, 12 years. And that was the confirmation that I was looking for, that I needed. And so Memorial Day leading up to that time period, got on the back of a motorcycle and did 1,320 miles up to Washington, D.C. Beautiful ride. Man, I tell you something. Especially when you're going across Tennessee. Going up and over the Cumberland Mountains to the plateau there at Crossville, coming down into Knoxville, looking over and seeing the Great Smoky Mountains, heading over to Bristol, Tennessee, and Virginia, going up Highway 81, having the Blue Ridge shadow you all the way, and then you finally go into Washington, D.C. 3 days, and of course 3 days coming back. But to be in Washington, D.C. again on the back of a motorcycle for Rolling Thunder, to remember our POWs and MIAs, to remember and honor those veterans who, we've got to fix this thing about veteran suicide. But it was very special. And again, you remember the words from the Gettysburg Address that we must show increased devotion to those who have made that last full measure of devotion. Those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for this incredible nation. And what was even more special for me in this Rolling Thunder, and this Memorial Day weekend of 2025, I got to meet the Gold Star mothers. And one Gold Star mother by the name of Rose, she was actually my riding buddy for the weekend. And so there she was on the back of my bike, going around to different things, different events. The Vietnam Vigil. She told me the story of her son, an Air Force PJ who lost his life during a Chinook helicopter crash in Afghanistan. Incredible young man. Her son volunteered to go over and finish out the term of one of his brothers who had just had a new son born. That's what it's all about. And when you remember that less than 1%, maybe 1%, less than 1% of this great nation serves in uniform today. So it was a very emotional experience for me to ride up and ride back from Washington, D.C. for Memorial Day weekend. But it was incredible to be there with my veteran brothers and sisters, my brothers and sisters of the two-wheel, and also the trikes. It's always great to see the trikes up there. But it's especially fantastic when you're going down Constitution Avenue and you see the little kids on the streets and they're listening to that roar. Because we have to be the voice for those men and women who have made that sacrifice. We have to continually remind people, every day should be Memorial Day in the United States of America. Because the freedoms, the liberties, and the rights that we enjoy are all because someone did, as it says in John 15:13, no greater love hath a man that he would lay down his life for his friends. And that's what men and women continue to do here in the United States. So that was one part of the hiatus that I've had away from the microphone. Then just last week, got another great opportunity to go back over to the Cotentin Peninsula of France that we also know as Normandy. The 81st anniversary. But this year was a little different because thanks to the Young Americas Foundation, YAF, you can visit them at yaf.org. Last summer, I challenged them to sponsor a trip for some of the college conservative students to go to Normandy, and YAF came through. An incredible donor by the name of Larry Polhill, Polhill, great man, former Army veteran. 25 students got to go over to Normandy. 25 students got to go and stand on Omaha Beach, bloody Omaha, and get a sensing of what it was like for the men of the 1st Infantry Division and the 29th Infantry Division. 25 college students got a chance to stand at Pont du Hoc, where Ronald Reagan gave that incredible speech honoring the men, the boys of Pont du Hoc for the 40th anniversary of D-Day. The place where the 2nd Ranger Battalion, some 225, scaled the cliffs, 200-foot cliffs, under enemy fire, and took the positions on those cliffs that were overlooking the beaches. These students got the chance to stand there at Utah Beach, 4th Infantry Division, a place where Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt Jr. came across with the very first wave. Theodore Roosevelt Jr., the son of a president, didn't have to do it, but he knew that call to service, that call to honor. Theodore Roosevelt Jr., a man who had arthritis, landed on Utah Beach carrying his cane. He would later lose his life to a heart attack, and he is memorialized there. 82nd Airborne Division jumping in, 101st Airborne Division jumping in. And what was so memorable for these 25 students, they got to see the old man here put his knees in the breeze once again on June the 5th. Part of our round canopy parachuting team USA out of Palatka, Florida, from a C-47 aircraft that flew 81 years ago. We jumped into a drop zone called St. Martin de Verville. It was the same drop zone 81 years ago when men of the 101st Airborne Division dropped into, middle of the night, early morning hours of June the 6th of 1944, to secure that village, that town, St. Martin de Verville, and take out some Nazi artillery batteries that could fire onto the beaches, that could impede the advance of the 4th Infantry Division and the 2nd Armored Division landing at Utah Beach. But what was most special was when 25 college students got to go to the American Military Cemetery, where over 9,000 are buried. And 2 of the 25 students were veterans. And they got the chance to lay a wreath there at the Spirit of Youth statue and walk that hollow ground, walk in and amongst some of these grave sites, to see the names, to see the units. It all came together for them. And for me to look over and see some of those students having tears in their eyes as taps was being played after they laid those wreaths, that's what it's all about. That's how we pass on to subsequent generations this responsibility, this need to have that increased devotion for those who made the last full measure of devotion. Incredible 2 weeks. Riding in rolling thunder in Washington, D.C., going back to Normandy again, and jumping once again into a drop zone out of a C-47 aircraft that flew 81 years ago. But then I come back home to America, where sadly on June the 6th of 2025, when I'm over in Normandy walking with these students on Utah Beach, there are criminal illegal immigrants. There are people in our country that are, this is not peaceful protesting. They are burning cars. They're carrying the flags of a foreign nation in our country, advocating for people who have committed crimes in this country, murderers, rapists, and others, to stay here in this country and terrorize Americans. Is that really what men and women have given their lives for? Is that really why these men took the beaches of Omaha, scaled the cliffs of Pond du Hoc, landed at Utah Beach, jumped into these drop zones, so that 81 years later, we would see the undermining of our national sovereignty? We would see these people come into our country and commit acts of violence against legal, law-abiding citizens, and yet we have a group of individuals, the Democrat Party, progressive socialist leftists, who will support that, who would think it's just hunky-dory, it's fine. You know, these people are out, it's part of their freedom of speech. No, it's not. It is traitorous, it's sedition, it's treasonous if you're an American citizen. But the fact that we have criminals from other countries in our country, you know, it kind of does remind me of that Alien Enemies Act of 1798, because 2 words in the Alien Enemies Act that is so important: predatory incursions. Predatory incursions, predatory incursions. These people didn't come here looking for a better way of life. The person that killed Laken Riley did not come here looking for a better way of life. The Venezuelan woman who killed an Air Force Academy freshman cadet named Ava Moore, not far away from where I'm sitting at Lake Grapevine, ran her over on Memorial Day weekend. How in the Sam Hill does someone come here illegally into the United States of America and get a jet ski and then kill a young American girl, Ava Moore, 18 years of age, who had just finished the Air Force Academy preparatory school in Colorado Springs and was looking to enter in as a freshman cadet at the Air Force Academy? Gone, dead. A young woman who wanted to serve her nation, out kayaking on Memorial Day weekend on Lake Grapevine, right here in North Texas, dead. And we're supposed to just sit back and say, this is fine? I mean, I'm there getting ready to go to Normandy, and we've got some illegal immigrant from Egypt firebombing, throwing Molotov cocktails, setting Jewish citizens on fire. What's different between what that man did and what the Nazis did to Jews in the concentration camps? And this is what is happening on our streets. someone goes into a museum after an event and guns down two young Jewish Israeli embassy workers. One, the young lady is crawling away for her life, and he reloads and unloads a magazine into her. Then he shouts out, "Free, free Palestine." That's not freedom of speech. That's not freedom of expression. That's not petitioning your government for redress of grievance. That's a terrorist attack. That's not why our men and women raised their right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that they take that obligation freely without any purpose of evasion or mental reservation. So help me God. That's not why they lay down their lives for this country, so that we can allow the enemy to come into the country illegally. This Abrego Garcia, we're supposedly going to bring him back. Why we're bringing him back? He's not even a damn citizen of this country. He has no rights. He has no privileges. If you come into this country illegally, you have no rights. You have no privileges. You're a non-state, non-uniform belligerent on our streets. A criminal, illegal immigrant. Members of terrorist organizations. And we think that they should have due process? The only due process is to process your you-know-what the hell out of this country. So ask yourselves, I mean, what did those men fight for and sacrifice for 81 years ago that we see happening on our streets? That's not what they laid down their lives for. You know, one of the things that the students, they were saying, hey, Colonel, what kind of movies or whatever, all of them had seen Saving Private Ryan. And then they got the opportunity to be there on that beach, which was replicated. They actually got to see some of the cities that were referred to in that movie. They walked those grounds. But see, there were two words in that movie that really are prescient to where we are today in the United States of America. See, as Tom Hanks' character, Captain Miller, is dying, he looks to Matt Damon's character, Private Ryan, and he whispers two words, two simple words, a challenge, actually. He says, earn this. Earn this. Earn this sacrifice that these men made to come find you to get you back home. Earn this. And then it's interesting because the grown up Ryan, now standing before Captain Miller's gravesite there at the National Cemetery in the movie, he turns to his wife and he says, tell me that I've lived a good life. Tell me that I'm a good man. Because those two words, earn this, that challenge is in his head. Are we in America earning the sacrifices that those men made 81 years ago? And let me tell you, when you're over there in Normandy and you meet some of those men, like I did this past time, 98 years of age, 101st Airborne Division veteran, many of them have sharp minds. But if they were to turn and look to you today and say, earn this, can you respond and say, yes, I will? Because I got to tell you, when I look around our country, there are a lot of people that aren't earning it. I can start with Gavin Newsom out there in California, Karen Bass, a mayor of an American city, one of our largest cities, who is siding with criminal illegal immigrants over law and order. People that are out there right now talking about, comparing President Trump to a dictator, a tyrant, whatever, said nothing when our border was wide open and allowing these individuals to come into our country to murder, to rape, to assault legal law-abiding citizens. It wasn't too long ago, April the 19th, that I was in Lexington, Massachusetts for the 250th anniversary of the start of the American Revolution. Why did they, why were the British marching toward Concord, Massachusetts? Was to destroy a weapons and armaments factory that was supplying the Sons of Liberty. You want to talk about tyranny? Tyranny is disarming people so that you can't have control over them. That's tyranny. And here we are today. People that are carrying out what the British tried to do 250 years ago. Massachusetts has some of the most stringent gun control laws. But yet, how is it that we can turn around and see criminal, illegal immigrants in this country with weapons, but yet we have a certain group of individuals, Democrat Party, progressive socialists, that want to disarm legal, law-abiding citizens? No different than what the British wanted to do on that day of April 19th of 1775, 250 years ago. See, there is an important man, political philosopher, by the name of George Santayana. He kind of said those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. That's where we are. Same type of tyranny, same type of philosophy. It is once again shown up here in the United States of America. The end of this week, ladies and gentlemen, is June the 14th. Now, I know everybody's sitting around saying, June, the month of June, the month of June. It's LGBTQIA plus Alphabet Soup Mafia month. Care less about that crap. What is June for me? It's the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States Army, June the 14th. June the 14th is also Flag Day. What is interesting about those two things happening on the same day, this Saturday, wondering how many of you will remember that. Wonder how many of you will put flags out in front of your house. Kind of like all the American flags I saw in front of houses all through Normandy. They have not forgotten. But the thing is, the motto of the United States Army, very simple, 3 words: this will defend. Think about it. June the 14th of 1775, when the United States Army was founded, created, birthed, there was no United States of America. Nah. But you know what there was? There was an ideal. There was a belief. There was something worth fighting for called liberty. And an army was created to defend it. That's what those men who landed on Omaha Beach, Utah Beach, scaled the cliffs of Pondohawk, and jumped into those drop zones in the middle of the night. They were continuing that legacy of this will defend. That's part of my legacy. My dad served in World War II. I gave my service. My father-in-law gave his service, 24 years, 2 combat tours of duty in Vietnam. Because they understood the challenge of earned this. It wasn't about their skin color. It was about service, sacrifice, and commitment. And if we do not wake up as a country and embody those 3 words of this will defend, if we don't take honor and pride in who we are as a nation and the protection of our sovereignty, if we continue to allow these predatory incursions to come into our country and believe that they should be afforded rights and privileges, if we believe that the real rights and privileges of Americans should be undermined and taken away from them, such as the very basic thing of being able to defend themselves against the predatory incursions. I think it was, let me see, let me pull it out. I think it was Thomas Paine, the old colonel, can't remember everything, but you can certainly write it down. Ah, yes. Thomas Paine, the man who wrote The Crisis. Thomas Paine said the duty of a true patriot is to protect his country from its government. Now, some of y'all want to turn around and say that you are protecting your country from your government. No, you're not. You have an ideological agenda that you feel is more important than the protecting of our constitutional republic and abiding by the laws of this republic, which is the Constitution. America needs to wake up. America needs to earn this. America needs to make a commitment to this we'll defend. Or else there may be a day when we don't have an America. And if we don't have an America, where do people go who are seeking safe harbor, respite from tyranny that's all across this globe? Memorial Day, Normandy, and then I come back here and I see what's happening on the streets of Los Angeles. It's time to squash it. And it's time for true patriots to make a stand. It's time for true Americans to be steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.